Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to be diving into the car industry, really talking about what has impacted nearly every household. And our show is called Inside Modern Car Trends. And I'm so glad to have with me Mr. Ryan Ambrosia, who is the president and founder of Ambrosia Automotive. He's really here to help us unpack what it means for our drivers, the buyers, and the future of car care. And I'm going to give a couple of statistics before we get started. The average age of vehicles on the road right now has climbed to a record of 12.8 years, and more than 74 million of those cars are between 10 to 15 years old. At the same time, the cost of upgrading them has really become not any easier, and the average new car price, it still sits at over $48,000. So to have Mr. Ambrosia here to talk about that, he's an ASE certified L1 advanced level technician. He's got more than 25 years of experience in the industry. He has an associate's degree in computer networking and computer information technology and a minor in business from Davis University. And even before that, he was an independent contractor as a computer network technician for Lucas County. So when we talk about electricity, when we talk about, again, networking, and we talk about the fact that a lot of these computers on board the cars are having problems, there's nobody any better in the industry. So welcome, Ryan, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the nice introduction there. Thank you.
Yes. I think, sometimes people forget how technical their cars are. And so they just rely on, a mechanic can go in and they can fix anything on a car. But you really need these certifications to be able to understand what's going on with that onboard computer.
Absolutely. Like you said, the average vehicle is so much more technologically advanced than almost anything that a normal person would interact on a day-to-day basis. There's just so much technology on these vehicles, and it's all ran by various computers, modules, different sensors. It's very, very complicated to navigate. There's very little that is done traditionally on cars. Even brakes. Everything brake now is drive-by-wire, which just means that it's controlled by the computer. So you have to electronically retract the calipers. You have to recalibrate them when you're done. It's not like before where you could just kind of jack it up and replace the brake pads. It's very interesting, and it's moving so rapidly. Again, because we spend so much time in our vehicles, and we want our cell phones and we want our daily lives to sync with our cars and all the modules and the computers and electronics that make that happen.
I think back on your background here, you've got this computer background. And so how does it really tie into being passionate about cars, and what keeps you really motivated?
Yeah, and it kind of took me by surprise when I really first got into the car industry, just because at the time I didn't really understand how integrated computers were into cars, but because I just really enjoy working with just computers and electricity and electronics so much, as there was this fusion of them together, I love that world. I love all things technology. I love how all those different systems work, and then seeing them bridge the technology between your traditional mechanical components into electronics and then the driver interface. It's fascinating. And one of the things I love about the industry is that it is always something new. There's always something around the corner. And for us on our team, we love that. It's like anytime new technology comes out, we're the first ones to start to research it and see, is there training on this? We want to see how this works. How does this operate? How does this computer work with this one? Even going back to, rain sensors, the way that they use digital sensors and LiDAR to detect rain on the window to automatically apply the wiper blades. And those are all systems that, if a customer's like, hey, my automatic wiper blades aren't working, that's not something where you're just going to replace the wiper blade, right? You have to really understand at a very deep level, how does that computer work? How does it read and interpret when there's water on the windshield? So it's really exciting, really cool.
I remember when my wiper blades came on by themselves. Because again, I was been driving a long time, and I remember you had to turn them on. It was always manual. And then I got a car that it just did it automatically, and it became norm, right? So, what type of cars are coming in right now to your shop? Are you getting more hybrids, compact SUVs, older vehicles? These statistics are very telling. What are you seeing?
Yeah, we see a very surprising number of hybrids. That's probably the majority of what we're seeing. A lot of modern cars, we don't get a whole lot of classics. Every now and then we'll get, something from the, 50s, 60s, 70s, but for the most part, the majority of the customers that are coming in, they're right around that 2015, 16, 18 year range, and a lot of like we said, a lot of hybrids. Just in the past week, we had a Lexus hybrid, a Tesla, and a Audi hybrid in. So we're seeing a lot of it, and it's out there. The technology's out there. We see it, we train on it, but seeing it in the real world and seeing how many people have adopted this technology, it's been cool. It's been surprising. It's good to see, but also one of the surprising things is how different every manufacturer is. Even though you think a hybrid is a hybrid and operates in this particular fashion, everybody has their own way of doing it to a certain extent. The way that the modules communicate, the way that the hybrid battery charges the 12-volt battery, and all the different integrated systems. It's quite impressive how different all those different manufacturers are.
I'm thinking about like the vehicles that have not only the hybrids, but also the maintenance for this too, because it's going to operate differently than some of the other cars on the road. So, what are you suggesting on maintenance and what people should be looking for? Especially, I know they have computers on board beyond an engine light. What would you suggest?
So the number one thing is looking at the owner's manual, which most people don't do, which is fine. I mean, let's be honest. Most
Wait,
people
are you
just
reading
don't.
my mind? I just
Right.
need to know this.
Yeah, it's just not something. It's not a very interesting read typically. And one of the things that is very surprising in industry is manufacturers do not do a very good job of communicating that information to the driver. You would think that all the technology on these vehicles, there would be more indications, more reminders that would pop up and say, hey, your oil change is due is one thing, but then wiper blades, have you checked your filters? Have you rotated your tires? All those things that we kind of take for granted that you don't think about. And most of these vehicles, as you get more and more advanced technology with the hybrids and the all-wheel drives and all these systems, there is a lot more maintenance that comes with them. And if it's a full EV, that might just be filters. But anytime we're dealing with high electricity or even a lot of modules, they generate a lot of heat, and we have to keep those modules cool. Well, we don't want to just blow any air into those modules. We have to clean that air. We have to filter that air, and all those little filters need changed. They need cleaned, and that's something that we don't think about. So when it comes to those maintenance items, that's really where we try to instill in our customers the value of that preventative maintenance, because it can be very much the difference between a car making it 10 years or making it 5 years. And that's part of what we in-house developed a maintenance program for our customers, where you can subscribe to the program and it gets you all of your regular maintenance, from oil changes and air filters, wiper blades, tire rotations. And so we try to take some of that load off of the customer, because again, in an ideal world, the car would let the customer know exactly when things are coming up, but that's not really the world we live in. So it's our job, right? Like, you trust us with our vehicle, you bring it in, we're going to try to take all that off your plate. We're going to look up the maintenance for you. We're going to try to have regular scheduled intervals, reminders, text messages. And then of course we have that program that kind of takes that load off of you. So there's not a surprise. You just know you're on the program. It's time for my oil change, and everything's taken care of.
Especially if you've got older cars. I mean, it's just so ideal. And because we're keeping our cars longer, I think I've got one car that will tell me. It doesn't tell me about the wiper blades. It's very interesting. I have to kind of figure it out on my own. It's not wiping the way it should. And then we have older cars that don't communicate any of this information. And you all do a wonderful job of telling us. And one of the few places, one of the only places I know has such a great wraparound program like that. I think that anybody listening, if you've got children that are, and I say young adults that are out there driving, it's really important, because I can tell you right now, my son gets into the car and starts driving and doesn't think twice about the wiper blades, I'm hoping he's thinking about the oil. We have to have those discussions. And so programs like that, or especially if you've got folks going off to college, you want to make sure they don't break down when you're not there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's one of the most, concerning things, especially as a parent, your kid's off in the world and making sure that, they're taken care of and the vehicle's not going to break down on them. And like you said, it's not top of mind for most people. They're just getting in and they're driving, they're going to college, they're going to their friend's house, they're going to wherever. And
I do think to myself too, and they're the first ones to get the second car, the one that is on its last legs. Or for those that are blessed enough where they're getting their first car and it's brand new, hey, hats off to you. But you've got to get a maintenance program to go with it, sounds like.
yeah, absolutely.
How do you build trust? Trust is a big piece, especially as a leader in the industry that you're doing. You've got some of the best Google reviews out there. And, that's one thing I see with your customers, and you've been in the business for over a decade. How do you build that trust and how do you maintain it?
I think it all starts with our group of technicians and our team as a whole. We really target and we try to instill those core values into our team. And I always tell everybody that comes on to work for us, like, we're fixing cars, but we're in the customer service industry at the very bottom line. And especially being in the industry my whole life and seeing so many things that frankly drive me nuts. One of my biggest heartburns is I get customers coming all the time and they're like, yeah, I paid, shop ABC, $2,000 and my car's still doing this. And I cannot wrap my head around that. Like, how can you charge somebody to not fix their vehicle? And so we don't guess, we don't think, we know. We go through very extensive testing. We have a lot of training and again, those certifications, so that when we get into a car, if we are not 100% sure what that car needs, we're not going to tell the customer that. And when we do tell the customer, you need this, it's not because we're thinking that's what it needs. It's because we've gone through all the testing and we know without a doubt. And then we even take it a step further where we tell the customer, if we put this part on your car and it doesn't fix it, you're not going to pay for it. Because there is some situations where you go through every amount of testing and it's like, okay, this module is testing bad. And maybe for whatever reason, one of the test results came back positive when it wasn't. But that's one of the things that we really, really strive on, is just over the top customer service, knowing that it's an industry that unfortunately is plagued by a lot of bad practices. So we really, really strive for that aspect of it. Just having our customers know that we have their back. We're here for them. At the end of the day, like, we don't work commission. We don't work flat rate. You never have to worry about any kind of upselling or anything that you don't need. We're strictly there to do the best we can to extend the life of your vehicle. And we love, we're family. Everybody that works for us has family. So we're very big on that. And we take a lot of pride in what we do. We look at it like, you're trusting us to fix this vehicle. You're going to put your family in it. And maybe you're going to drive, 70 miles an hour to Florida. Like, we take a lot of responsibility, a lot of pride in that. So that's kind of, I think, where that core philosophy comes for it. We don't take it lightly.
Well, it's very telling too, even when you walk into the office and customer service, it doesn't matter even what industry you're in. If you're thinking about care for your clients that are coming in the door, that's definitely what you're talking about, is how you're building that trust and maintaining it. And you say what you're going to do, and then you do what you said you were going to do. And that's really important. And one thing about recommendations, again, we're talking about these car trends. What are you seeing out there when customers are coming in and are trusting you or with their cars? What are you seeing with the major problems with breaking down right now?
The majority of issues still largely stem from either technology issues that are malfunctioning because computers aren't properly talking to each other. We see a lot of water intrusion issues. So people that maybe have sunroofs, the sunroof drains aren't draining properly because they're clogged up. You get water that starts to back up and it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it goes into the car and it starts to affect these computers. You put your iPhone in water, it's just not going to operate like it's supposed to. And we see a lot of that, especially with all of the modern technology on these vehicles. You've got, modules everywhere on these cars, under the dash, under the hood, under the seat, in the trunk. And so we see a lot of issues with that, with water intrusion. And then on the mechanical side of it, we still see the majority of issues stem from improper maintenance, lack of proper oil changes. People don't realize oil's not just oil. It used to be. You used to have 1030. It went in just about everything. But now everybody's got unique weights from 017 to 020 to 2040, and they're all different blends for a very specific reason. And if that proper oil isn't used with the proper weight and the proper certifications and the different gradings, you can cause major issues. And anything from the vehicle won't start to the vehicle stalling, all can come down to oil. And a lot of times, again, going back to the, most people don't read their owner's manuals, so I don't blame them. You go in and it's like, oh yeah, I've got 10,000 miles in between oil changes. Well, what you don't see is that the manufacturer deems that 1,000 miles is normal to burn a quart of oil on some of these vehicles, which sounds absurd, but it's literally in the owner's manual. Well, they don't tell you that. So you're driving around in a car and it's been 5,000 miles from your oil change and you're running on no oil. And so we see a lot of issues with that as well. And again, it goes back to just that proper maintaining. And you would think as technology has evolved, you would have less maintenance, but unfortunately we're seeing the other side of it where maintenance now is so much more important in order to get that longevity out of the vehicle. I mean, we'll see two of the identical vehicles, year, make, model. One of them's falling apart at 60,000 miles and one of them's got 220,000 miles. And so many times it comes down to properly maintaining it. And it's frustrating because you go in somewhere and it's $200 for an oil change. But, you have to look at it like, you're protecting this $50,000, $60,000 investment of this vehicle. So those are probably the two biggest things that we see. We're starting to see more and more. The system's kind of called V2X. It's vehicle to everything is kind of what it stands for. And essentially it's as manufacturers continue to integrate more with our daily lives, they're trying to make the driving experience more seamless. So a lot of vehicles now are having 5G connectivity so that they can have real life map updates. So as you're driving, you'll know that there's an accident up front, or maybe there was a crash. There's a backup here. There's some snow expected on the turnpike. So it's going to actually help to reroute you from all these things. But we're starting to see some issues with those modules where they miscommunicate or they glitch out. And so those systems are really, really cool, the advanced driver systems, the lane departure, but they are very susceptible, especially in this area because of the water intrusion, the corrosion, the hot and cold weather. So seeing a lot of interesting stuff right now.
Well, I have to admit, hearing that, I'm not sure I want to turn any driving over to the car for me or on my behalf because of those glitches. I don't want to wind up in a negative situation where I'm hurt because I turned my driving over to the car, and who knows where that's going to lead, right? And you see this, and it may be one-offs, but I can't quite bring myself to turn it over.
Yeah, it is. It's something that they're really leaning heavily into, and the amount of R&D and investments that we're seeing from the manufacturers into this technology leads me to believe that it's because of whatever industry metrics they're using that there is a demand for it. But I'm largely with you, and that's the sentiment I get from most people is that there's still that reluctance to it. A lot of customers do come in and they're like, oh yeah, I do like that I can just put the cruise control in the expressway and it just drives itself. But as that system starts to degrade or there's issues, it gets to be very, very shaky. And even small things. I mean, some vehicles, depending on how that system is engineered, again, everyone's using different technology. They're still kind of figuring it out, unfortunately, to the detriment of some of the customers. And so, I mean, there's situations where you hit a big enough pothole and you can throw off one of those cameras enough that it doesn't properly operate the lane departure system. So then you're getting warning messages. And on some of those systems, they're so interconnected, even if you don't use the lane departure system, because there's an issue with one of those, whether it's a LiDAR sensor, a radar sensor, a camera, now the ABS doesn't work. And it can really be cumbersome, but it is. It's coming, whether we want it or not. They're really leaning heavily into it.
I know people have heard me talk about AI. I talk about it in the book. I talk about it with those that come on the show, and it is. I'm waiting for I see some of the old science fiction movies. I caught Total Recall the other day, and I realized it was a taxi driver that was actually a robot driving the taxi, and he had a malfunction and he drove them into a wall. And I thought, oh, yep. As AI combined with a little bit of the driving going on.
Yeah, it is. It's a scary thought because, like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, this is super nice. I just tell it where to take me and it takes me there. But then on the flip side, number one, if we become too comfortable with those systems and they fail, then it can be really tough. And again, like as they're figuring out this technology, sometimes it's at the detriment to the customers because we're the ones kind of figuring out a lot of these kinks. And it's interesting. I think that'll be one of the really big pushes that we start to see. There's a handful of manufacturers that have already integrated some different AI bots into the cars, and they're kind of rolling it out slowly. But I fully expect that in the next 10 years, I think we'll be at a world where you can get in and you can just say, boop, take me here. I want to stop here, and then I want to end up over here. And I think before we know it, we're going to be there. But it's another system that has to operate, it has to function, and then you're starting to see where cost is always a thing, right?
Yes.
And how do manufacturers create these systems but keep costs down? And like Toyota's actually under some heat right now because BMW did this years ago where you had to pay for extra features, so you actually had to pay a monthly fee for your heated seats, and they actually got so much pushback that they ended up getting rid of it. Well, now a lot of the new Toyotas, they have a full functionality setting where you have to pay a yearly subscription to have that 5G connectivity, which it's optional, but if you don't pay for it, then so many of those features that we've all become, kind of accustomed to are being disabled. But on the manufacturer side of it, they look at it like, well, this is a constantly evolving landscape, and we have to be able to constantly update this to make sure that as those bugs appear, we can update it. Well, we can't do that without the revenue, so then we have to charge these subscription fees. It's very interesting. It's very interesting where it's going. And my hope is that at the very least, the consumer is given an option.
Yes.
Like, okay, like this is the model that has all those bells and whistles, and you can pay this monthly fee or this yearly fee, and you can have all this full self-driving. But in the same token, if you want just a traditional vehicle, you can get that as well. And I really hope that we can figure out a way to make that happen, because my concern is you get to those vehicles where you only have a choice but to get that super advanced one, and then things get expensive and it gets hard to fix, and a customer needs to spend $2,500 to get their lane departure system fixed. That's a lot of money to invest in something that's not mission critical, so to speak. But then once that system's integrated with everything, now the car doesn't even operate because of this one thing. So I hope that as the industry continues to evolve, where consumers are at least given the option.
I do think to myself, I bought a car where all of a sudden something stopped working on it. I couldn't lock my car, start my car from a distance. And it was because I didn't have my monthly subscription going. And I went, wait a minute, was there a monthly subscription? And I think that if you're buying a new car, sometimes it rolls in, it's free for the first 36 months or whatever, and then it's a charge. So yes, so there's a couple key takeaways here. Just make sure you're looking at your manuals, and and just don't rely on the person who's selling you the car to walk you through because they walk you through as much as they can, the bells and whistles. But it sounds like really going into that maintenance program is part of to keep the longevity of your car going.
Absolutely. Research. And a lot of, again, there's this mad rush right now to create all these new technologies. And unfortunately, a lot of the manufacturers don't develop that in-house. So they build the powertrain of the vehicle, but then they bid out a lot of that other technology to other manufacturers. And that's where we're seeing a lot of those issues come from, because even though manufacturer A made the vehicle, they didn't make all these different modules, and there's communication issues and there are breakdowns. And so just the more research you can do on those different systems, and absolutely looking into the maintenance schedule. What is the real long-term cost of this vehicle going to be?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, here's my fun question for you is, what are you reading and what are you watching? Because I'm not sure if you're staying on top of all this technology, but what are you doing to relax?
So I'm actually not currently reading anything. I've been kind of slacking. Outside of I read a lot of automotive magazines, articles. So I'm very most of my extracurricular reading is researching all those things, because I just really enjoy it. I always like learning about all stuff like that. I've actually been watching, me and my wife have been watching Landman. We enjoy that show.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's a good show. And then, the gym's kind of always my anchor, so I'm always finding ways to go down there and hopefully not hurt myself.
Well, excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. And really, for those that are, this is the time of the year, this is the end of the year, and people start thinking, hopefully when they get their tax returns back, they start looking for cars, and they'll start thinking about some of these key components, and like really looking at, what's the maintenance schedule of the car before you buy it if it's used, and then what can you get if you're buying new, and then where can you find a good trusted shop like yours, to make sure to build a relationship. My father used to say, it's always good to have a good accountant, an attorney, and a great automotive guy.
I love it.
So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Gore.
And thank you to our listeners who are liking the show and sharing it. We so appreciate you. And we'd like to thank our sponsor. Thank you to J. Foster Jewelers, family owned, offering the finest natural gemstones, stunning engagement rings, and brilliant diamonds. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates LTD, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.